Hi, I'm Neil from Panintelligence. I'm a software developer. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can embed the dashboard into your own product and also use our APIs to create users in the system and also log them into the system from your own product. Okay, first I'm going to show you how you can embed the dashboard into your own product. Here we're going to use an iframe to achieve that. So here I've just got a demonstration web page which is very basic, and we've got an iframe which points at the MIS dashboard Panintelligence product. If we switch to that web page, we can see, if I just refresh that page, we get the Panintelligence product in the window there. And this iframe could be a small area within your own product, for example. Or you could launch the dashboard as a pop-up window, and there's several different ways you can show the product. Now, one of the issues with this way of integrating is that you get this login prompt. So this may be what you desire, but I'm going to show you how you can also achieve this level of integration without that login prompt by logging in the users automatically. So what you need to use is our API to achieve that level of integration. So I've got here a product called Postman, and Postman is a product which is actually a Chrome extension, and that enables us to use the API here. You might be using Java or C# technologies or many other technologies to integrate with our API, but to make it easy to demonstrate to you and also easy for you to test it, we found that the Postman tool is very good. Now the API is fully documented, so we have a install and deployment guide which you can use, and there's also documentation within the actual product itself. So I'll just show you some of that documentation very quickly. Firstly, here at this URL we have an entry point to the API. This test form is just an example of how you would create a form to log in. If I just log in as the admin user, it sends that information through to the API, which is a RESTful API. So it sends just simple HTTP commands through. And this is the XML response that we get from the API. So there's lots of information here. There's some URLs which enable us to investigate the API further. And there's also information like the username of the user that's logged on and the version number. But what's most important here is this token here. So this security token is needed for all attempts to access the API. You need this token. So the first step is always to log in as a user and get the token, and then you can use that in the requests following that. Here we've got some built-in documentation. So if this URL here will take you to this information, and then from here you can delve into the different areas. There's a guide on how to use the API, guide on logins and tokens, and then each of the elements within the API. For example, users has a page describing all the different information that you can configure for a user. So what I'm going to step through now is we're going to create a user using the API, and then we're going to log in as that user, and we're going to get a security token, and then we're going to use that security token to help us with the embedding. This series of stages can be completely automated by your software, for example. But as I mentioned here, I'm going to step through manually to show you how to do it using the Postman software. So firstly, I'm going to just log in with the admin user into the dashboard, get a token, and then this will enable us to do all the following actions. So this URL is what I'm going to use for token. So all the API calls are going to use this starting part of the URL here, and then following that there's various different sections which will become clearer shortly. Now to log in and get a token, we use the /token, and then we pass in the parameter username, which is admin, and password, which is dashboard in this case. This bit here indicates that we're doing a HTTP post. So if I send that information off to the server, it's now responded with the page we saw before, and it's given us a token. So I'm going to select this token because this is the key to all the following requests. So I've logged in as admin, so that gives me the privileges to create users. So the next stage I'm going to do is create a user, because what I probably want to do here is synchronize the users in Panintelligence with the users in my product, for example. So if I paste the token in there, then you can see the remainder of the URL is /user, and because it's a post request, that means that I'm going to be putting a new user into the system. And you can also use a post to update an existing user. So I've added various different parameters here which specify how I want the new user to be created and configured. So I want to create a user called John with the password dashboard. I don't want his password to expire, and his name is John Smith. Now this section here I've allocated a category called data connections, and now you'll see in the documentation that this particular information is passed in as a block of XML, and the more complicated information you need to set in, they're passed in the form of XML. The more simple parameters are simply just text parameters. Finally, I'm going to turn off the home page for that user. So now that I've got a valid security token, which will time out after a certain period of time, which is configurable, I can send that information through to the server. And the server's responded now with a block of XML for the user. So we can see that the user's been created, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted. And if we went into the product now, we would see the user in there, and they're configured exactly as we've requested. If I switch through to this final tab now, what I'm going to do is log in again to the API, but this time I'm going to log in with the user John. Send that through, and it's given us another security token. So this security token is for the user John, rather than the security token we had previously, which was for the administration user. So I've copied that information, and now we're going to go back to the iframe we had before. So here's where we integrate the work we've just done in the API with the embedding work that we did with the iframe. So the way that you can pass that authentication that we've just done through into the product is by just using some parameters on the URL. So if I add the dashboard token parameter there, and I say that is equals to the token which I've just obtained from the API, and I save that. If I then switch through to the web page again, I'm going to do a full refresh here because we want to clear out any session that we've got. And we can see the dashboard is logged in under the user John, and it goes to his category which we specified earlier on was data connections. So that's how to do the authentication with the API and then embedding the dashboard. Finally, I think I'll show you single chart mode. Now, single chart mode is a way to do a similar process that we've just done, but just focus on one particular chart. So, for example, columns by data source. So if I wanted my iframe to just show this single chart rather than the whole category, we use the single chart mode. So now what I'm going to do is log on as an administrator again, just to get some details about this chart, which will help us. Okay, just made a mistake. I'm going to go back a little bit.
Where are you going back to?
Yeah, so the mistake I made was that I'm trying to log in to this window as admin, but I can't do that because of the integration work I've done. So okay. I'm just going to go back a little bit and open a new tab to log in. Okay. So to get the information about this chart, we're going to log into the dashboard again. and we'll log in as admin. And if we go to the Data Connections tab, the category, if we go to this menu here, toolbar, and then this menu here, XML data, we can see that this chart in particular has a chart ID, which is just listed here, 159. So that tells us that's a unique identifier for that particular chart, and if we want to use a single chart mode, that's the information that we'll need. So if I switch to the iframe setup again, once again it's just configuring the URL that's used by the system. So now I'm going to say that I want to put a single chart mode using a chart ID of 159. So if I save that information and then we go back to the embedding example we have, refresh that, and you can see we're now in the system just in single chart mode. I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions about this, you can contact us at Panintelligence, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again soon.